Going to skip Westminster and go to Bethlehem's affirmation of faith again. What's the doctrine? What are we arguing for from the Bible in this session? God's work in faith and sanctification is the heading in the Bethlehem Elder Affirmation of Faith. And the 5th paragraph and the 6th one say this: we believe that sanctification, which comes by the Spirit through faith, is imperfect and incomplete in this life. Although slavery to sin is broken and sinful desires are progressively weakened by the power of a superior satisfaction in the glory of Christ, yet there remain remnants of corruption in every heart that give rise to irreconcilable war and call for vigilance in the lifelong fight of faith. You will fight this till you're dead, or you will lose. When Paul said, I have fought the good fight, I have finished my course, I have kept the faith, now I'm ready to be poured out, he meant, to the end it's been war. And I have fought. There's never a season of coasting. You coast, you go backward. We believe that all who are justified will win this fight. Not be spared the fight, just guaranteed winning. They will, excuse me, they will persevere in faith and never surrender to the enemy of their souls. I don't mean there aren't seasons of backsliding. I mean absolute surrender here. I realized when I read that last night that could be taken way too perfectionistically. This perseverance is the promise of the new covenant, obtained by the blood of Christ and worked in us by God Himself, yet not so as to diminish, but only to empower and encourage our vigilance, so that we may say in the end, I have fought the good fight, but it was not I, but the grace of God which was with me. So there it is. Series of questions or statements. First, the must. This troubles people. It was in preaching a sermon on this issue, we must persevere in faith if we are finally to be saved, that got me into trouble back in 1980 when I preached in Omaha at the annual meeting of the Baptist General Conference, and a guy came up to me and said, young man, going to have to watch out for your Arminianism in this conference. And I thought, my goodness, I'm a 7-point Calvinist. What does he mean? He meant I sounded like people could lose their salvation when I preached this sermon from Hebrews. And that is what many texts sound like. And you just have to ask, okay, what are those threats that require perseverance imply about God's people? Can they? Do they? Because a lot of people solve the issue of assurance and security by just avoiding the texts that sound threatening to professing believers. So let's look at those threatening texts and be sobered by the requirement of perseverance before we look at the gift and assurance of personal perseverance. 1 Corinthians 15:1. Now, I make known to you, brethren, the gospel which I preached to you, which you received, in which you stand, by which you are saved, if you hold fast the word that I preached to you, unless you believed in vain. That's the kind of thing that shakes people up. They look at that and they say, that doesn't sound like Calvinism to me. That sounds like we are dropping in and out of salvation, or easily dropping out. And basically what it says is, got to keep believing. You've got to keep believing. You stop believing, your belief was in vain. It was nothing. Colossians 1. And although you were formerly alienated and hostile in mind, engaged in evil deeds, yet he has now reconciled you in his fleshly body through death, in order to present you before him holy and blameless and beyond reproach, if you continue in the faith, firmly established and steadfast, not moved away from the hope of the gospel that you have heard, which was proclaimed in all creation under heaven, and of which I, Paul, was made a minister. Paul insisted that continuing in faith. This is why the term perseverance of the saints is the P rather than TULIP or TULIS, TULIES, eternal security. I believe in that term defined biblically. However, what that phrase carries to a lot of people is, you're secure no matter what you do. That's not what the doctrine of perseverance says. The doctrine of perseverance says you're secure, and because he keeps you, you won't make shipwreck of your faith. God will hold on to you. And you must not make shipwreck of your faith. So these ifs, these big conditions are in the Bible, forcing us to think in terms of perseverance, not mechanical security. Fall of 1980, brand new pastor. I got this couple cheating on each other. I'm 34 years old, I have zero pastoral experience. And they were about my age, 28 years ago. And I brought her in. And I said, now, what are you doing? She's sleeping with the guy every weekend. Not her husband. And I said, okay, we got to stop that. This weekend, you're not showing up. Okay? Well, I don't know. It's really hard. I said, there's no question here. That's over. We don't do that. And then I said, those who do such things, those who persevere in doing such things, will be damned. Her face just completely changed. She said, that's not what our previous pastor said. I was a brand new pastor. He just left. She said, that's not what our previous pastor said. He said, I'm eternally secure. And then she quoted me the text. Romans 8:37. For I am sure that neither death, nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor anything else in all creation can separate me from the love of God. And the devil can't, he can make me sin and commit adultery, but he can't separate me from the love of God. She had this thing theologically all worked out. So she can sleep with the guy every weekend, feel secure. I said, that's not what that text means. And I can quote her some things like this. She was absolutely